PD Beats here from Pop Turnitus, speaking to Darren Weiss about Break, which is going to be in theaters, select theaters, April 26th. Welcome to the show, man. Thanks so much for being here.
Peter, thank you for having me. I'm so excited to get going, and I've been a big fan of yours, and I've watched some of your shows over the last couple weeks, and you're really engaging, and thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you for your time, man. Really excited to chat with you. I think one of the coolest things about film and storytelling is this ability for the audience member to dive into worlds that they might not be familiar with. And I think with this film, that is a really cool thing. We're diving into the world of pool, of billiards, of underground pool and everything, pool sharks. What was that like for you as an actor to dive into kind of a world that maybe people are not super familiar with? Like, I'm curious about that.
Yeah, it's funny. I was never super like well versed in the pool world at all. You know, I in college, or like you'd go to a bar with your friends and there's a pool table there and you play, and it was always like interesting to me. And but I never really understood or got a clear like definition of all the different games, how competitive it is. There's 8 ball, there's 9 ball, there's different wraps, there's a break queue, there's a normal queue. Like, so yeah, like once we got this movie into pre-production, I had to train with a professional player to sort of get me to where I needed to be. And
Wow.
honestly, we trained for 3 hours a day, 3 days a week for like 3 months, and I got pretty well versed in the pool world after that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's interesting to me because a lot happens before you go to camera on a film. There's like that, and in a lot of ways, it's like two journeys from a storyteller acting perspective. There's before filming and after filming. Does it feel like two separate like separate journeys, or does it feel like one big journey for you with multiple steps?
I feel like it's one big journey, but under that umbrella, there's like one step here and like one step here, and the process is just different, you know. But it all falls under that big umbrella, and the process it's been just fun, and it's been a long time coming, and to finally see it come to fruition and
Mhm.
end the process is pretty cool as well.
In terms of kind of filming, and I feel like if you ask anyone in your cast this, they'd have different kind of answers because they're doing different stuff, different characters, and different roles. But it's like, what can you tell me about the overall pace for you filming Break? Was it some days where it seemed kind of more fast paced than other days? Was there an overall kind of like consistent kind of pace that you were cool with filming this? Like, I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, you know, I would say the scenes that weren't in the pool hall and didn't require, you know, pool shots were definitely faster, and the scenes that were in the pool hall that, you know, dealt with needing the pool tech on set, those took a little longer because it's like, how do we map this out? Okay, we have to do it from 4 different angles. I have to make the shot on every angle. So at times it felt like some of the scenes in terms of the actual pool plane was a little slow, but that's just because there was so many moving parts and it had to be slow. Everything else, all the other scenes, the scenes in the junkyard were some of my favorite days. The scenes at my character's house with my mom, the scenes at the frat party were really great and high pace. The scenes with Victor Rasuk, who plays opposite me in the film, we had some car scenes, and those felt very fast paced as well. So there was definitely a difference, but I would say it was a little slower when we were playing pool, just
Yeah.
because all the things that went into it, you know?
Yeah. When you play a character that's lost and trying to figure things out, I think one of the kind of cool things about that from a creative perspective is sometimes they don't feel like they don't think they're lost. You know what I mean? You're watching this kind of movie and you're seeing these characters figuring things out, and you're not sure if they're kind of in tune with the audience member, right? Who's saying, like, this is a lost person, self reflection, figuring things out. How does your character read in the script for this in regards to what I kind of just talked about being lost and self-reflection? And what was that like kind of seeing that come to life on the screen for you specifically?
Yeah, it was really nice, the whole arc and the process for my character. And I think you really see it. I think you sort of actually see it early because, you know, he's out of college, right? So a lot of
Yeah.
his friends are in college, and you see him, I don't want to spoil it, but like you see him go to this frat party with like one of his old friends that, you know, he doesn't have many friends. One of his old friends, like, hey, we got to get you back out, come to this party. we got to get you in. Why don't you reapply? So, it's just sort of like you see it early and often. First of all, in the frat house, because he sort of feels like, he's a fish out of water, like he doesn't
Yes.
belong, doesn't know anyone. And then, he comes upon this pool hall with all these misfit toys. Um, and the beautiful thing about the story is it isn't until he comes upon this pool hall by accident where where there's all these misfit toys where he sort of learns to be himself and be who he is through these characters that have also experienced that. And I think we sort of let the audience pick up on that without sort of like giving it to them, like we have so many different characters and it's under this one roof in this pool hall. And like
Yeah.
Eli, who I played, finally feels like he can be who he is when he's around these people. And you sort of see him grow up very quickly in this pool hall and get confidence where maybe in the beginning he didn't have as much just because he was working 2 jobs. He's uncertain about his future. He sort of is uncomfortable with who he is. He doesn't know who he is. He sort of
Mhm.
needed somebody to hold his hand a little bit.
Is that fun or more challenging for you from an acting perspective, playing characters like you just said that don't know who they are or what's going on? Because I always think about that, right? I find
Yeah,
that so interesting.
you know what? It is fun. There's always a interesting dynamic to it because you have to really uncover some layers. And for me, I try to relate to things in my personal life
Yeah.
to help me with the character, right? So like I go back to like when I was in middle school or even like my first year or two in high school before I really felt comfortable with who I was. I remember like in middle school, I just sort of felt like a little out of place. I had friends, but like I didn't really feel like I was part of like any one group, and I just sort of um was very worried about what people
Yeah.
thought about me or I was insecure like in my own skin. So like I drew on like what it was like to feel that. And I had to really think about it because it's been so long and I
Yeah.
did a lot of self work on myself throughout the years. But just remembering like how that felt and not really knowing like who your friend was or not really knowing, if you feel comfortable at a party or if you're invited or, if you like have a crush on someone and
Yeah.
like all that, and for me personally, like when I do a role, especially like this, I try to relate it to my own life. And it's always
Yeah.
easier for me because then I can just thread it through experiences in my own life.
No, absolutely. It's interesting when you really kind of dive in because getting back to what I was saying, so much kind of happens before you go to camera and you film because you're really like taking this script and you're taking these characters and you're doing all those things you were talking about. You're bringing Darren Weiss to this character a little bit based on past experiences. So I think though some people don't realize like how much thinking there is before you go to camera. Like
And
I'm
it's crazy how much playing the lead and like even any character, you have one scene, like build a backstory because the better backstory you build, Peter, like that's how that's your character will show. So for instance, like there's always this exercise I do whenever I land a role, I'll call my friends who aren't actors, who aren't in the industry. I'll have 3 or 4 friends over and I'll get into character of who I am. And I'll just
yeah.
say, ask me 50 questions about anything. And I don't know what they're going to ask me. They could ask me anything from like, what's your relationship with your mom? What's your favorite ice cream? Have you ever, had a girlfriend before? Any question goes. And that helps me build the depthness of my character, just getting 50 to 100
Interesting.
questions. It's an interesting exercise that I picked up on from a director that I worked with my first movie, Michelle Danner, and she teaches an acting class and she's like, hey, I want you to come in and come to this acting class I teach. And, they would like to meet you and hear about the audition process. And I didn't know this. I walked in, she's like, all right, we're going to do an exercise. Darren, get in character.
Yeah.
Have all my students just ask you random questions as if you were
Wow.
a character. And
It's
ever
like
since that,
it's like an impromptu focus group.
right, exactly. Because you don't know what questions you're going to get. And you sort of have to get in that mindset of, okay, like, this is my character. And then the more you build that, the easier it is to play that character.
No, that is well said. No, that's really interesting. I'm hoping that the rap party involved a pool tournament, or was there a pool tournament at some point throughout shooting? Like there had to be something, or some
You know
competitive
what?
games.
It's so funny. We didn't get a chance to have a rap party because we rapped like It might have been 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was just like around the holidays. But were there any
And then
games of pool or like tournaments?
oh, yeah,
Like,
so it's so funny. I had, one of the 2 pool techs. I played, like, you know, at lunch or, like, if they were
Yeah.
setting up, I'd play people in the pool hall, but one of the 2 pool techs, it's this, like, 21-year-old, and he was one of the coaches, and, like, he's, like, top 50 in the world. And,
Wow.
like, I was more interested because the pool hall has regulars, right? So they have some good players there, and the owner of the pool hall, who we based, Softly a character off, she was like, "Hey, if you need extras or people in the background, these people that are regulars that live in this pool hall would love to, just be a part of it." And we said, "Absolutely." So, like, the best player in that pool hall, I asked the owner, I said, "Les, who's the best player? I want to see if my coach, you know, how the game would look." And I didn't tell them that, you know, this 21-year-old's like a top 50 player in the world that plays in the, you know, the world championships or whatever. And it was just fun. And within like 2 seconds, you could say, the guy that was playing my coach was like, "Oh, damn, this kid can play a little bit." And we didn't tell him that he's like top 50 in the world, you know?
Oh, that's so funny. That's awesome. No, I love the behind the scenes. And I love that this dives into a world that people aren't super familiar with. Like, I think that's one of the coolest things about this. And people are going to be able to check out the film April 26th in select theaters. And then it will be on demand in June, I believe.
June 11th, it's gonna
Yeah.
go on like Amazon, iTunes, and then April 26th, we're getting a theatrical release somewhere in the realm of 50 to 100 theaters,
Yeah.
sprinkled throughout the country, a lot in LA, New York,
Mhm.
Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Colorado. So, yeah, if you check your local listings, you know, it might be showing close to you, and if not, June 11th, it'll be available everywhere.
Exciting. Darren, thank you so much for your time. It was so great chatting with you.
Thank you for having me. This has been amazing.
Yeah, your Instagram account is where people can keep up to date with everything, right? Is it just your name and a number, right?
That would be my Instagram, Darren Weiss, DARREN WEISS, the number 8, Darren Weiss 8.
Awesome. That's perfect. Well, this has been Pop Turn. youtube.com/PopTurn for previous episodes. You can catch Darren in Break, which is going to be in select theaters April 26th and then on demand June 11th. Until next time, it's Darren and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popturnative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popturnative on YouTube.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.